So I started my journey into the film world back in 2008 when I was a sophomore in high school. We used this camcorder that was like the size. It was a camcorder and it still used DV tapes. Now, for those who don't know what DV tapes are, they're like video cassette tapes. And for those who don't know what video cassette tapes are, you guys are probably Gen Z under. I'm not even gonna lie to you, I don't even think you will find them. Dinosaur ages. DSLR and mirrorless cameras are the cameras that you see many YouTubers using today, which brings us to this video. I'm going to talk about the Canon R5, my A camera, my go-to camera. I had this camera for about a year and I just wanted to speak on it for a bit. First, before I talk about my experiences and how I feel about the Canon R5, I need you guys to know my journey down the line of camera lineage. As I mentioned before, we use big camcorders, like cameras like these, the R5, were mainly like for photographers and things of that nature. They weren't really built for video, at least I didn't think so back in the days. Now, I had such an obsession with the big camcorders because, you know, that's what I grew up off on. That's what I learned how to use. But then I started watching a whole bunch of YouTubers and seeing that they weren't using the camcorders that I was using. My first go-to camera was the Panasonic GH4. The GH4 did exactly what I needed it to do because I was more into videos back then. But then I became a photographer as well, and I realized, geez, the GH4 is not a picture camera at all. As a matter of fact, I think it only has like 16 megapixels, and to be honest with you, that's straight garbage for photographers. But like I said before, it was a pretty good camera for the time that I had it. As a matter of fact, I still use it as my B camera to this day, but I'm not gonna lie to you, it doesn't necessarily go into my camera bag unless I'm doing something like behind the scenes where, you know, I don't have another camera and I'm using the Canon R5 as my main camera. Like I said, this is my A camera. But you know, I didn't hop into the Canon R5 after the Panasonic GH4. I managed to talk my sister into getting the Canon 80D because she wanted to be a YouTuber as well. And I just didn't really want to continue forward and push forward with the Panasonic GH4. Now, I was obsessed with Canon cameras because mentors such as Peter McKinnon and Matty Apuja and many other YouTubers were into Canon. I was using the Canon 80D and I loved that camera. It just gave a different picture quality than the Panasonic GH4 did. Now, like I said before, the camera was originally my sister's, but then I kept on using it. And you know, when you borrow something for so long, the person forgot that it belonged to them. Yeah, that's basically what happened with me and my sister. But anyways, I started using the 80D a lot more often, but then I had struggles and difficulties matching color with my B camera being the Panasonic GH4. Later on down the line, as business started booming and then I started getting clients and then I started doing podcast shows, I realized I had to sit down and really ask myself, am I a hobbyist photographer and videographer anymore? The answer was no. I get a lot of clients nowadays. I had to make my workflow as quick and efficient as possible. I spent a lot more time, you know, color grading footage from the 80D along with the Panasonic GH4. There's a lot more that goes into color grading 8-bit footage. And I'm gonna be quite honest with you, I bought this camera off of credit, and you know, a lot of us feel that insecurity, that envy when we see other YouTubers having like high-end equipment. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I wish I had 3 of these, 4 of these, 5 of these, but at the time being, this is what I got, and I'm gonna work with it. And this is the question many of us need to ask. Now, there's not one set camera that can do it all. For example, red cameras, they're video cameras. They're not ideal for taking pictures. I mean, you could give it a try. I'm not in that world, so I wouldn't necessarily know. I needed a camera that I knew I was going to invest in and I was going to be using for the next 5 to 10 years. So when the Canon R5 came out, I looked at all the specs, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, there's no way this camera, being the holy grail of cameras, in my opinion, existed. Now, Canon has came out with a lot more cameras after that. They came out with the R5, I believe, along with the R6. And then after that, they had the R3, the R7, the R10, the R5C, and I could just keep going down the line. Canon has an obsession with the letter R. I don't know why, but I knew for a fact that the Canon R5 fit the bill when it came down to my necessary needs. Now, it's been a year since I had the Canon R5, and I'm not gonna lie, I never never looked back. My only real issues with the Canon R5, which is an issue for a lot of Canon R5 users, is the overheating. But to be honest with you, the specs that does use overheating, such as 8K RAW, I don't really use too much, but when I can, I do. Now, I am learning so much from this camera, and to this day, as a professional, there's still so much to learn. I'm not gonna lie to you, just recently, I learned about the 8K RAW specs and capabilities, and I never ever knew that this camera shot proxies. As a matter of fact, I am shooting on the Canon R5 right now as we speak, along with my 85mm USM lens. Now with these two combined, I could take on the world, and I absolutely love my camera setup now. And like I said, if I can have more than one Canon R5, I would do it. So I would definitely recommend this camera to those who can't afford it. I think at the time I'm recording this, which is November 2022, this camera is about, I would say $3,000. My recommendation, once again, is to get yourself a camera that could do everything you need it to do, because, you know, who doesn't need something that's efficient? Who doesn't need something that's convenient? So yeah, you know, I'm in love with it. This is my baby girl. Say hello to her. Her name is Camera, right? And what I'm shooting on right now is my homeboy's Canon R5, which I gotta return to him after this shoot. Hopefully the information I gave you was insightful. If you have any questions or you have any opinions on what you think about the Canon R5, please leave a comment down below. So this is it. We just fried some fish. My real name's Kid Ippy. That's it. Deuces.